All right, Local 180, welcome back. And this part is on workforce and unions, as you can see. As far as collective bargaining, this document, I believe this was the 20F form that the company submits with the Security and Exchange Commission, where I got this information. So here, this document makes reference to the 950 hourly production and maintenance employees in Burlington, Iowa, and Racine, Wisconsin. It talks about the collective bargaining agreement with the UAW. Here it talks about collective bargaining agreements in Europe, including in Italy, approximately 16,000 CNH industrial employees are covered by a collective bargaining agreement that continues through December 31st of this year. Worth noting, I don't know what labor laws in Italy are like. I actually think my knee jerk reaction is to think that they have much more lax labor laws as far as when and how they can strike. But I can't say that definitively. But nevertheless, their contract expiration date is coming up. Maybe that's a good time to strike. I don't know. I have a friend who speaks Italian. I could get us in touch if this is a tactic that you would like to pursue or look further into. Um, Here, as far as employees, I put this up because I just wanted to give, an idea of where most of the workforce is at CNH. It's agriculture, it's construction. I just think those are worthwhile numbers to consider as far as tactics. Where's the strength, who does what, what percentage of the workforce is what. So I just thought those were handy numbers. Let's see what else. So it's about 72,000 employees at CNH. Excuse me. Here, this is all stuff that this could be agitational propaganda. This is from one of their glossy documents in the investor relations page. I think it's the sustainability report, something like that, where they talk about human and labor rights. So this stuff is good for agitational propaganda. You find quotes in here, take quotes out, where the company is blatantly contradicting itself. So yeah, that's why I put this up there. Feel free to go, through that document. Again, it's called the sustainability report. It's in the investor relations page. And, also stuff like this. Like they have all these, like drawings and designs where they talk about, how socially conscious they are and how environmentally friendly they are. And you can do a variety of things with this. You can actually talk about them and use them as part of media campaigns or educational campaigns or speaking tours or stuff like that. But you could also do creative things with them. So I like to take stuff like this and do what's called culture jamming. So just take stuff like this and kind of point out how ridiculous it is somehow through art. Either by putting these drawings, these images, these graphics, next to what it's actually like to work at CNH. So that's why I included that. Let's see what else. Some of the stuff I'm just going to let y'all kind of go through for yourselves. You can just very easily just read it. So I'm not going to go into too deep into it. Included a section on employee turnover. Looks like turnover percent for 2021 is 10%. That's 1 in 10 workers, which I consider to be quite high. Yeah, that's their turnover rate. Let's see. And apparently it worsened since last year, or the year prior, 2020. Yeah, that's what's happening with turnover. And turnover, of course, speaks to the quality of the workplace. This one was interesting. So the 2021 comparison between entry-level wage and minimum wage. So the way I understand this to work is that minimum wage equals 100. So here in Austria, in the Czech Republic, France, Germany, that is what entry level wage earners at CNH come in making? They come in making minimum wage, and that's 100. So in a situation like this in Argentina, for instance, uh, they're making 341 above the minimum wage. Whatever this measurement is. So they're making almost 3.5 times the minimum wage as entry level workers. In the U.S., it's you know 206, whatever that is. So just interesting to see all of this. Don't know if it's particularly useful, but just more measurements. A measurement of female employees across CNH. Now this one, I've been looking forward to getting to this one. So as far as union membership, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on this list. All right, so that's something that we have to consider very seriously and strongly. This is the age of globalized capitalism, and so the workers' movement, the labor movement, also needs to be globalized. It needs to be international. That's why we speak of an international workers' movement, because the work of or the labor of a Mexican worker is directly connected to the labor of a worker in the U.S., is connected to the labor of a worker in China, is connected. So that's why I'm putting this out there, is to let y'all know where unions exist in CNH around the world, so that maybe hopefully we can organize, and the workers there already have some kind of collective consciousness, or ability to organize and work together, or also a need and a desire to do some kind of international solidarity. This is something that's not really done very often in the labor movement, and I think that's part of why labor is in the decline, is because we're in the age of global capitalism, and we need to treat our labor movement as such. So I think it makes perfect sense to reach out to workers in Mexico, Ethiopia, China, Argentina, Spain, Poland, Italy, especially because of their contract coming up, in the UK, and the Czech Republic, and South Africa, and the US. Also, just to highlight this, in Italy and France, though they're not here, I think it's important to consider reaching out to them in particular, because they are the second and the third largest market for CNH. So things for you to consider. If we decide to reach out to workers in Mexico, I can offer myself to translate. I speak Spanish. If we decide to reach out to Italy, I have a friend who's labor friendly and can translate. So y'all let me know about that. Any other language or any other ideas as far as solidarity, international solidarity, I could look for a translator somehow. All right, so moving right along. So as of December 31st, 2021, collective bargaining agreements covered more than 80% of company employees. So that's quite high, to be honest. So again, just more reason to connect with workers in other countries. As I said again, and on Solidarity Day, we need to make this labor movement feel like these Italian workers are our next door neighbors, like these Mexican workers are our next door neighbors, like the Ethiopian workers are our next door neighbors. The bosses aren't going to tell you to do that, because the bosses would freak out if you started doing that. That's why I think we should start doing that, or do more of it, more international solidarity. All right, so collective labor agreements in detail. I'll leave y'all to read through some of this. Let me know if anything sparks any ideas. The main issues covered under the agreements. So the first issue, the biggest issue, is operating issues. The second biggest issue is wage and pay. By far, this accounts for over half of the issues that are negotiated under these agreements. Just worth knowing. Health and safety, truthfully, that seems kind of low considering the nature of the work. But just an observation. Now, grievances on labor practices. So check this out. So I don't know exactly what to think of this. So check this out. So 2021 grievances filed and resolved. Okay, noted. Filed and resolved. And it's the number of grievances filed and resolved 2021 CNH Industrial Worldwide. North America filed 179 grievances. So 179 grievances filed in North America, of which 133 were resolved. But look at this. Europe only filed 2. Now, when you consider this, when you consider how the US is number 11 and North America, which of course consider that tells you something, and I think that starts to tell a story of heightened exploitation. If you just use those numbers by themselves. I'll let you UAW members speak for yourselves, but me as a researcher, as someone who's looking at these numbers and you know learning from these numbers, that tells me a story of hyper-exploitation of the North American workforce. And I think that's something that can be put out there. Again, this is CNH's own numbers. The actual reality may be a little different. I've considered maybe, y'all can tell me differently. Maybe, this is not really 179 grievances. Maybe there's much, much more that aren't accounted for in whatever document this was. Y'all know the truth. But still, like the numbers that they present, like the story tells itself. I mean, 179 grievances filed in North America, 2 in Europe, 1 in the rest of the world. And look at this. I mean, come on. You're number 11 as far as unionization and number 1 as far as grievances. I mean, again, as a person who doesn't work there, just going by these numbers, that's the story that it tells me, is that it's hyper exploitation here in the U.S. You can also read this part. I encourage you to do so. As far as labor unrest, where things may be quote unquote hot or active, again, worth reaching out to. Italian workers, French workers, European workers, in particular, they like general strikes and big old industry strikes and stuff like that, and work stoppages. This isn't as foreign to them as it is to us. This is France and Italy in particular have or are known for having very vibrant labor movements. That's part of the reason why they have 8 weeks off per year by legislation for vacation, or 6 weeks, or maternity leave or paternity leave, because they have quote unquote labor unrest, or workers who are willing to get out and put themselves on strike or engage in direct action. So yeah, just food for thought. I don't think that reaching out to some of these unions is kind of such a far out idea. We just need a translator and get our plan out what the conversation would look like. So again, employees in number. Oh, look at this again. So 11,000 employees in North America, and they're still number 1 as far as grievances. I can't let it go. That's what these numbers tell me, is that there's so many more workers in Europe and South America and the rest of the world. And look, even a comparable number between North America and South America. And the most grievances are here in North America. So, we can talk about that some more, but just an observation from here. And then just a few more, numbers as far as the region and category of the workers, the hourly salaried professional by year. Just information to just, brew on and think about. Nothing necessarily to create tactic on, but certainly to factor into a conversation about tactics. So that's what I have in this section. Let me know if I could clarify anything or look more deeply into anything else. But those are my thoughts as far as workforces, unions, possible tactics.